Okay, so so let's kind of jump into a little bit. I've just got a little bit for you. We got a lot of stuff going on. Todd Swenson's coming in from CFG, and tell you what, man, I'm a big fan of that CFG products. Um, Not because Todd's coming in, flying in to visit with us at the Cincinnati hotspot and taking a small group of us out to dinner. But okay, so I did mention my name on the leaderboard because I was the last one on the leaderboard. But anyway, so I was just kind of sitting around. This sounds bad. This really sounds bad. But like my wife and daughter went out soccer thing. My son was playing at a volleyball match, like open gym volleyball, and I'm like sitting around at home by myself, going, "Where's everybody?" All three of my older kids are in college or doing a co-op job or out being an actress in New York City, and I'm just like sitting by myself, going, "Oh my gosh." And like no agents were calling me. No one was like in a house saying, "Alex, I need help." I'm just like sitting there. And I usually have a lot of stuff going on, but it was like driving me crazy because I didn't want to just sit and watch TV. So I got some old leads and I started dialing. I mean, I said, let's see if I can book some appointments just for fun. Let's get out there and let's do this thing, And it was it's pretty hilarious because, I mean, so I had a stack of these old leads. I go, let's just dial. And of course, I didn't really have pressure on me. Every that whole, how that is. It's like, man, I got to make money kind of pressure. Which is kind of interesting, that mentality. But I still had a little bit of that, oh man, I'm dialing again. Like when I got in the business, probably the biggest thing for me was getting over that fear of the phone, which is crazy because when I got into business, I was a headhunter. I was an executive recruiter. So by day, okay, I would call to make $200 a day, 100 in the morning to client companies that were looking for people to get job orders from. And then I make $100 in the afternoon to candidates looking for people who were qualified to fill these positions and doing spontaneous interviews and getting referrals from them. And I was like doing $200 in the daytime. But then when I come at night in this business, I just had this thing, with overcoming dialing, right? And so I kind of figured out some things of how to handle that, right? I think in this business, what's important is to learn how to handle the things you're going to run into. So all you new people on the call, let me just tell you, I'm not speaking it into you, but let me tell you that there'll be uncomfortable things that you will have to do in this business that you have never done before. Okay? You maybe have never dialed leads before. You have never talked to strangers that sent the leads in to go to their house to present them options to take care of their family. You may have never done that in your life, okay? There'll be uncomfortable things like going to homes of people you don't know, getting lost because your GPS is telling you it should be there, but the house number is not on the house. Like one house says like 8911, the other house next to it, right, says 8907, and you're supposed to be at 8909, and there is no 8909. Where is it? You know what I mean? And then you discover it's the other garage turned into a house that's behind that second property. I mean, you start learning this, but you've never gone through this before, and so you're probably going to have like fear and doubt inside you that wells up that sometimes paralyzes you, right? Like the fear will paralyze you where you just don't want to do anything. You don't want to, like, I mean, mind games. I mean, I remember, and maybe some of y'all can relate. Okay, so early on in the business, I would like set up my time to dial. And I would dial, I'd tell myself, okay, I'm going to dial at 6 o'clock. Actually, my dial time was 5 to 9. So it's like I'm thinking, okay, man, I'm going to get 4 good hours of dialing. I'll book all these appointments. I'm going to make a lot of money. Okay, so it's 5 o'clock. And, okay, I'm ready to go. All right, 5 p.m. And I have my stack of leads, and not even a stack. Back then it was like, actually it's more like, okay, so I get home, it's about 5:45, and so my dial time was at 6, so I'm trying to get the times right. So 6 o'clock I'd be dialing. I have like a small stack of leads, because we just got into the business. And then I just like, okay, I'm going to dial at 6 p.m. And so I'm kind of pacing, and I'm looking at the clock, right? I'm pacing around, I'm looking at the clock, and it's like, okay, man, it's like 5 minutes to 6, and then it's 4 minutes to 6. You know how when you watch an egg boiling, it just never seems to like boil, like the water never boils? It's kind of like that. I look at the clock, and it's like, man, when I stare at the clock, time just seems to totally slow down, It just slows down. Forever. It's like, and so by the time it gets to 6 o'clock, I'm like all nervous. I built all this crap in me. Like, I mean, my mind was just like fearing picking up that dadgum phone, when that day I had made 200 cold call dials anyway. Weird. And I think a lot of it was putting pressure on myself, because I would read the lead. I was just, before 6, I would go through every lead and go, oh, wow, this is a 45-year-old. Okay, and he's got a $150,000 mortgage. And I turn to the next one as, oh, it's a husband and wife that's, 50 and 49, and their height and weight. And I'd start creating this whole backstory of these people that like need me to come over to protect them, because one of them's going to die next week. Like I painted this big picture of all these people that I didn't know, and I would be calling them, and I would think, oh my gosh, if I don't call them and protect them and they die, then they're going to die without insurance, and then the wife is going to have to go, sell the house or whatever. I mean, my imagination is an awesome thing. We can use it positive, like when you're building a dream, but it can be used for negative to stop you in your tracks, because you're imagining all these things and all these worries, and oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing, and if I go in there, I'm not going to be equipped. And so that's all this in my head, and it's like 5:59 p.m. It's 1 minute to dial. And so I'd sit there, and it's like, oh crap, I'm in my shorts, after I get home from work, kind of get in my shorts and stuff, real casual, and I'm sitting, and it's like, and then, okay, rationalization kicks in. You know how we are the masters of rationalizing everything we do just so we feel good about it? We kind of have that thing, that little muscle in us. And so I would like pick up the phone, and I'd say, before I even made a dial, I would convince myself, I go, you know what, they're probably still eating dinner. And I'm just going to bother them. And I'm going to blow my chance if I call them during dinner, because they'll be mad at me, and their caller ID will have my number on their phone, and then when I call back, they're mad at me, so they won't pick up again. You see, I mean, I'm just imagining all this is going to happen, right? And so I say, you know what? I'm going to wait till 6:30. I'm going to wait till 6:30, because 6:30 is going to be a better time to dial, because they'll be done with dinner, and and then I'll catch them before the 7 o'clock TV shows come on. I mean. Okay, and so what I would do is I would just pace around. That half hour, I would just kind of walk around and like And I'm just thinking, okay, man, I'm going to do this thing. I'm talking myself into it. I'm going to do this. Man, I got to protect these people. I was just kind of like trying to build myself up again. But then I'd stare at the clock again, and the clock would click, 6:25, 6:26, 6:20. So, I mean, and then then I'd go back to Leah. Okay, man, here we go. We're going to go at it again. And then it's like, you know what? 6:30 is not really a good time for me to dial because you know what? They're going to be kind of, whatever. I've come up with some reason, like, maybe their dinner went later. I was just conjuring up this story, right? And so I go, okay, I'm guess 7 o'clock's a better number. Good thing happens when the minute hand is up. It's how you're not supposed to get married with the hands up. Your time of your wedding ought to be like when it's like at the 30, right? Minute 30. That I've heard weird stuff like that. So I guess, you know what? I'm just going to do it on the hour. I'm going to catch them at 7 o'clock. And I'd be going through this, man. And then it's like, you know what? 7:30 is a better time. I would go through that and then I'd give up. I'd finally surrender to the fear and say, you know what? This is just not a good night. You know what? It's like Monday night. And, Monday Night Football. They probably aren't going to even answer the phone. So, I really only have one shot to make a good impression. So I'm going to come back tomorrow. So tomorrow, you know what? Tuesday is going to be a better day to dial. Tuesday is going to be a better day to dial. And I'm going to dial Tuesday. Okay. And then all that pressure's off. Man, I could just sit down, watch Monday Night Football, and just feel good that I made this smart business decision to dial on Tuesday instead of Monday. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is just me, man. I don't know if this has ever happened to you where you've gone through this whole thing, about dialing the dadgum phone, man. So this goes on for Tuesday, okay? And I was like not getting anything done. And I was like going, man, dude, you got to, because someone said, we had a conference call or something, training call, and they said, anytime's a good time to dial. Like, anytime's a good time to dial. And it's like, well, I'm sure there are better times than others. It's like, yeah, there are good times for people that are home, right? They're home to pick up the phone. That's the best time. The best time is when people pick up the phone. Well, I mean, how do you know when people are going to pick up the phone? That's the point. You do not know. You pick up the phone and dial and catch them when they are home. And it's just this random thing that, opportunity and preparedness. The opportunity is you dialing, and you're prepared to, with your phone script when they pick up the phone. You just can't make them pick up the phone. But the hardest thing, honestly, in this business is getting people to pick up the phone. But you can't get them to pick up the phone. They pick up the phone when the phone rings, right? So I realized, you know what? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Am I doing this just to make money or why? See, it always came back down to, what is my purpose for doing this? It's kind of like, do I want to, stick a toothpick in my eye all the time, or is there a reason to go through this agony every night, dialing the dadgum phone? I had to really step back and realize, why am I doing this? Is it just to make money? There's a lot of ways to make money out there. Did I need to make money? I absolutely needed to make money. Why did I need to make money? And I had to go back into, why did I join this business? I had to go back to square one and realize, what am I doing this for? I'm doing it for my family. I'm doing it so that I could give my family a shot. I'm doing it because I'm sick and tired of working, my butt off at work, and because usually in the evenings I'm recruiting people in my job on the West Coast, when I can talk to them because they're a 3-hour time difference. So I'm talking to them at like 8, 9, 10 p.m. So normally if I'm not dialing, I'm working dialing, doing interviews. So I was working that job, the recruiting job, like all different hours. So it just sucked. I didn't have time with my family. So I had to remember why I was doing this. And it always came back to that. See, I needed to remember that, right? I needed to remember that, what that was about, okay? And so what Andy Albright talks about, he talks about there are two methods of motivation, or two reasons to be motivated, okay? He talks about hate and love. You could be motivated by something that you hate, that you want to get away from, right? Or you can go towards something that you absolutely love. But one of the two is going to motivate you, or immediately, right? Love or hate. Do you hate where you are so much, right, that you're going to overcome? Because, you know, the common thing is fear. How do we overcome fear, right? Do we hate the thing more than the fear? So if the fear level, you know, is a 7, do we hate something more, like an 8? Or do we love something like an 8? To be more than the fear, which is at a 7. This is fear. When you can find the thing you hate or the thing you love, right, that's bigger than the fear, then the fear is still there, but now you can identify what will help you, the tools that will help you, right, take care of handling the fear. You have to learn how to handle it. Everyone has it. I don't care who you are. You have it at some level. You have to put the tools and the mechanisms in place in your brain to handle this emotion of fear, okay? You know, you feel the fear and you do it anyway. There's a great book, I think it's by Florence Littenauer, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, which is actually a great book. I know I have it. I don't see it right off the bat. But she talks in that book about fear. There's another great book called Go for No. Love that book. That book, like if you want to overcome fear of anything, fear of the phone, that book, Go for No. But what do you hate? What do you love? Well, I hated my job and all the time I was doing it. And who do I love? My family. That's why I was doing it. And I actually used both of those. So what I figured out in how to help me overcome it, this is when I first got in the business, overcoming that was, there's several things I did. When I was dressed casually, when I was wearing shorts or sweats and a sweatshirt, making dials, it gave me this relaxed, casual attitude instead of a more of a professional, get it done attitude. I could tell, you can tell, it's like when you wear a tuxedo, guys, don't you have a different attitude than when you're wearing, you know, shorts and a t-shirt and flip-flops? Right, the shorts, t-shirts, flip-flops kind of creates this casual, laid-back attitude where you're just relaxing and enjoying life, but you're not working and, you know. Whereas when you wear a tuxedo or a suit, you know, a three-piece suit, you're looking sharp, smelling good, you know, it's a whole different attitude. It's like women, when you're, you know, wearing an evening gown, it's a different attitude, right? Or a business suit, you're in a different mode. Well, I figured I needed to be in a work mode. So when I'd get back from work, I would stay in my work clothes, my khakis, my polo shirt. I would still be dressed up, and I would not change. I wouldn't get into a relaxed mindset, because that helped me to be dressed up when I was working. Even on a Saturday, if I'm doing Saturday dials, even though I put on like my quote-unquote work clothes, because it puts me into work attitude. Okay, I had to trick myself, right? And so you got to trick yourself sometimes to overcome that attitude and to get into the proper attitude. The other thing I did, because I know, man, I love my family. My kids were like 3.5, 2, and almost 1 year old. right? My three oldest kids were young. And so what I did was I got a picture of them, like in their pajamas, just the cutest picture of them, and I put it by my phone. I put it by my phone to remind me why I was doing this. And I had them staring at me, and I thought, what kind of example do I want to give my kids? An example of a scaredy cat, fearful father who's afraid of a stupid phone? Or did I want to present to them bravery, courageousness, these values that I want them to have? I wanted to model it for them by having it myself. Courage, overcoming fear, not denying the fear, but overcoming it and being brave and courageous, right? That was important for me. So having a picture of them, those feelings that would help me overcome this fear thing would well up inside me when I'd look at my children when I was stressed up. The other position, or the other thing I did, was my position when I'm dialing makes a difference. Like I'm talking back then when I got in. Instead of sitting and relaxed, I'd get up and I'd be in power position. Honestly, I'd be like this. And I had my headset on and I'd be like this. I'd be standing up and I would like write everything down, but I'd be standing up position. I just needed to stand up and feel, my power position. Like, because I felt powerful and I looked like, Superman hero, right? Like it's just this, feet, shoulder width apart and kind of my hands on my hips. I'd be doing this and I'd be dialing and I'd be talking to people and I would pace too. I'm a pacer, right? But I was just like, I'm in power position. So that helped me overcome fear, just the position. So do you see what I'm doing? I'm putting myself in this physical, I'm putting on the physiology of someone who is courageous and brave, right? I visualize my children staring at me and wanting my children to see their daddy perform in a brave and courageous manner, regardless of the results. To me, it was I needed to perform. I worry about the results later. I could be coached to get results, but what I need to do is I need to just get out there and start doing it, right? And so I'd still have that time clock going, but now I looked at the time clock like a starting pistol, getting out of the track, getting out of the blocks on a track, on track and field, like a 100-meter dash or a 400-meter race, right? My race was against poverty. A little sleep, a little slumber, and poverty will overtake you, which is a great verse to have in front of you on a little card. A little sleep, a little slumber, and poverty will overtake you. That's in Proverbs. I don't even remember which one that was, right? I was in the mode, man. I put on the physiology. I girded myself with armor, right? I had the breastplate. I had my sword, right? My phone. I had my motivation, which is my children in front of me, right? Running the race with the prize in front of me. Not the little crap of what objections they're going to ask me. I had to run towards my children, getting them free, getting my life free so I could be with my kids, to be the father I needed to be to my children. Right? And so when I did all of this, it put me in game time mode. And so when I see the clock start ticking, it's like, okay, I'm ready, man. I'm ready to rock. And when it hits 6, boom, I start dialing. I just like boom, 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 boom. Now, here's the focus I had when dialing. Okay, so here's another story. See, there's something about knowing yourself well enough, okay? Another little tool I had to overcome fear. When I went to Air Force Academy, we had this thing called survival swimming. Okay, what survival swimming is to teach you in a military situation that you can encounter in the water. Okay, so one of the things was learning how to jump off a ship. So we'd have to jump off the 10-meter board in the pool, the natatorium, I think it's called. And I tell you what, man, the 10-meter doesn't look that high from the deck of the pool, but I promise you, when you're up at the 10-meter looking down, you might as well be on the Empire frickin' State Building, okay? Because, oh my gosh, it is so high when you're looking down. But when you're looking up, it's like, yeah, that's no big deal. Because, you see the 3-meter springboard. It's like, yeah, 3 meters, it's not high. And then you see the 5-meter platform on the way to the 10 meters. It's like, yeah, that's not too bad. Until you're up there. Now, imagine we all had to jump off. And so you have all these cadets wearing our fatigues, right? Our olive drab uniform without shoes or boots or anything. And we were all like, all these cadets, all these freshman cadets up on the ladder. So like the ladder was full of humanity all the way up to they had us all climb up. So part of it was if you couldn't jump off, you'd have to climb back down with them ridiculing you and humiliated. So I remember, okay, I got this. So I go up there. We did it alphabetically, so I was like one of the first ones, right? And so I climb up and I look at the platform, and then I look down. And that was my first mistake, was looking down. Because I started looking down, and it's like, oh my God. I'm actually going to jump off the dadgum platform down, which might as well be 2 miles below me, and I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I mean, seriously, I was just like, and the more I looked, the worse the fear got. The more I looked, the worse it got, and the worse it got, the more I looked. And then that feeling, I don't know if you've ever been on heights, like I don't really have, like, what is it, what phobia that is, fear of heights. But I felt that tingling in my legs and in my torso, and the fear was just tremendous. The more I thought about it, oh my God. And the pressure of having to climb down with all those cadets on the ladders and stuff was like, I feared the platform more than I feared going back down, the humiliation. I'd rather be humiliated. It got to the point where like they were just yelling, go, go, and I couldn't, because I look at the end, I'd look down. Altophobia. Okay, thank you, Chitty. Altophobia. Man, I just felt like I was going to die. So I suffered the humiliation of climbing back down and just sitting on the deck. Now, trust me, I would fail the class if I didn't jump off the dadgum thing. So eventually I'd have to do it. And so here's what I realized. It was a great lesson for me, is the more I focus on my fear of falling into this pool, the worse the fear overtook me. So it was a thought thing. It was like the more I thought about it, the worse it got, right? And so I learned some techniques. They said, don't look down, okay? There's a reason they say don't look down, because the fear will overtake you. So don't look down. Don't worry about the result of what's going to happen, right? Just focus on what you got to do right now. And so next time I got up there, I realized I'm not going to look down, number one. I'm going to focus straight ahead. So I'm going to focus on the back wall of the natatorium, and I'm just going to walk towards that back wall. I knew that the platform was like maybe 20 feet, right? 15 feet, something like that. So say 15 feet. So I knew that if I walked 17 feet, 16 feet, 17 feet, I'm going to run out of platform. And then whatever was going to happen was going to happen. But all I had to focus on was walking those 17 feet, maybe it's like 5, 6, 7 paces or whatever. Okay. So here's what I did. I didn't look down, and I just focused on, I'm just walking. I'm going to walk. I'm just going to walk. And there's a point where there's no more platform, and then gravity is going to do its thing. And sure enough, man, I turned my mind off. I mean, I just shut my mind. I focused on walking, and sure enough, platform ran out, and it was like one of those Roadrunner Wile E. Coyote things. It's like you jump off the cliff, and all of a sudden you're like looking, and then you see a little puff of cloud, and then the coyote's going down and hits the canyon, the bottom of the canyon. I felt like that, man. I was just walking, all of a sudden, uh-oh. And boom, a second later I was in the pool. And then I had this enormous rush. Like, oh my gosh, I actually did it. I overcame what would just stop me before. And I had this overwhelming sense of accomplishment because I actually exercised a technique to overcome that fear. It was amazing to me. Amazing to me what I was able to accomplish. And I used that technique at the academy for a lot of different things that were scared, like the POW camp. POW camp, we're bound by secrecy to not talk about a lot about that. But the POW camp experienced the same thing. All I had to focus on was just getting through the next day. I just focused on surviving the day. They'd beat us up. We had bruises all up and down our chest. They beat us up. They starved us. Sleep deprivation. They did everything. They simulated beyond just like torture, real torture. But they did beat us up, But I just had to survive everything. The next thing, being cramped up in a little tiny box. They couldn't put me in there forever. I just had to survive that next thing, survive the next thing, get through the next thing. So what does that have to do with dialing the dadgum phone? When I realized that the more I focused on what the client was going to come back at me, what objection I needed to answer, protecting them and having that responsibility, the worse it got because, I was fearing things that didn't happen yet, which, like Andy says, 90% of them won't. I was fearing all these things in my head. The more I focused on what happens if, the more I didn't want to dial the phone. So all I focused on, after putting on all that stuff around me, was dialing 7 numbers. So back then in 1990 or 2000, you only had to dial 7 numbers. Now you got to dial like 10 numbers. Okay. So I just had to focus on dialing 10 numbers. That's all I got to do. Just dial those numbers. Whatever happens, happens. Okay. Whatever happens will happen. I can't control them picking up the phone, nor can I make them do what I want them to do. Okay. People only do what they eventually want to do. What we're going to do is, through the sales process, is teach you techniques to unlock the door for them to do what they really want to do for their families, and then that's how you're going to take care of them, right? But there's only so much I can do. The only thing I can control is dialing 7 numbers, mashing 7 numbers, 10 numbers now. And so that's what I did. I said, you know what? I'm not even going to read their birth date. I'm not going to read where they live. I'm not going to read who they are. I am just going to dial the phone. And so I dialed the 7 numbers, bop, 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 and then it would start ringing. And so it was kind of like a roller coaster. When you're on top of a roller coaster, that anticipation, what I hated about roller coasters was a click, 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 click. The car going up. I hated that click, 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 click. And then all of a sudden the sound would stop. It's like, oh man, here we go. We're at the top of the peak of the roller coaster and like, oh man, there's nowhere else but down. It's like whoosh, and it's just running away with you. You can't get off that car. And so that's the way I looked at when the ringtone happened. The roller coaster was going. And so if they answered, I'd have a script. I'd have the lead there. I would just be ready when they answered. But I just focused on matching the numbers. What was amazing is that sense of accomplishment of just matching the numbers, and then they would answer the phone, I would do my script, and I would book an appointment. It's like, oh my God. Or I stumble through an objection, or they'd hang up on me, or they yell at me. But you know what? I can't control them yelling at me. All I can control was matching the numbers. I realized after I booked my first appointment, it's like, oh my gosh. So all I'm really doing here is matching numbers and finding the nice people who want to protect their families. Yes, that's all you're doing. You're just trying to find the nice people that love their families. And now the stack of leads, I know there's going to be some of them there. There's got to be, because they filled it out. All the people that didn't fill it out and threw it in the mail, they don't want to protect their families, but at least these people have indicated there's some sense of wanting to do that. All I got to do is find the ones that want to do it. That's all my job is. It's not to force my way in there. right? Now we got a way to talk ourselves into getting into the house. That's what we got to do. But they won't let us in their house if they don't perceive a need for us to be in their house. Does that make sense? So again, people don't do what they don't want to do. They do what they want to do. So the fact that they let us in their house means that there's something there that's motivating them to let us in their house. Does that make sense? So I just got to find these people. And somewhere in the stack, there's going to be this person. And the quicker I dialed, the more dials I made, I would find that person that would pick their phone up and that would be nice to me and that wanted to protect their families. It's like you go into a carnival and you got that little tub of ducks, rubber ducks. And you had to look underneath and say if it was a winner. You're just picking it up. Is this a winner or not? Is this a winner or not? That's all you're doing when you're dialing the phone. That is all you're doing. So the whole fear thing for me was understanding why I wanted to do this and then figuring out techniques to get my mind right. Right? And so just a few days ago, when I decided to dial the phone, I was analyzing this fear thing. Like I didn't have to go through all the machinations, but I did have to motivate myself, because everything takes motivation. Like, I could have just slept more, which I don't like to sleep a whole lot. I could have done 1,000 other things, but, it's like, let's just dial some leads. And so I had that little bit of, okay, that feeling like, okay, I don't like to dial the phone. In fact, I kind of hate it. All right. Honestly, I hate dialing the phone. I don't like it, but I had to think, okay, why would I want to do this? So I had to go back to why would I want at my business the way it is now and what it's like, well, so here's the thing, like I've acted. I've done acting on stage, and part of acting is creating a real moment of you in character to another character so that it creates a real moment for the audience to believe that you're doing what you're doing, you're saying what you're saying because you're the character saying it. There's creating this moment. And so I'm really good at doing that, kind of putting myself in character and then doing it. Okay. So, on a Saturday morning, I'm going to dial leads. Like, okay, so here's what I put in my head. I started thinking, why would I want to do this? And so I went back to the hate. And here's, what would I hate to have happen in my life? Like, what would I really hate to have happen? And so I just got back 2 weeks ago at Parents Weekend for my daughter at Micah. And Micah is about a $40,000 a year school. And I was thinking, what if I'm, the average everyday workaday guy? So I put myself in that character. And we're sending Maddie to this college. And so in my character of an agent that needs to make money, my thought was, what if I couldn't pay her tuition next semester? Like her tuition is like, 20 grand a semester, right? So instead of being able to just write a check and paying it, what if I was like the guy making 100 grand a year that just doesn't have 20 grand laying around and we didn't want to get student loans? What if I couldn't? And man, I started getting like really like emotional because I would have to tell my daughter that she could no longer go to the school of her dreams. I would have to could you imagine telling your child, honey, look, your mommy and daddy would love for you to go to that school, but we just can't afford you going there. There's some really good graphic design schools here in Dayton, that it costs $4,000 a semester, instead of $40,000 a year, right? We're going to have to take you out of school. Can you imagine that conversation with your child? I started, like as an actor, the feelings come out, the emotions come out of you for your lines. Okay, that's a quick acting lesson. Well, I jumped in, it's like, holy crap. I would never want to tell my daughter that. Never. I would do anything. I will do anything so I don't have to tell her we can't afford to send her to school. So I tell you what, man, I got on the phone and I started booking. I made like, I don't have my activity sheet on me. I made like 25, let's see, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 35. I made 40 dials. I talked to like six or seven people. I had a number of callbacks. I booked like 3 appointments. I closed all of them. I wrote 2, and then I have a third one that I'm going back to write up because I didn't have the stupid forms with me. Always have your forms with you. I mean, I just knocked it down. I mean, I should, right? I should write some business on them. And I did. They were actually new marriage leads. Like, I was killing it on new marriage leads. I closed all of them. New marriage leads. I love new marriage leads. I love new marriage leads. They're younger people. Oh, my God. I mean, I didn't have to work. Okay, I'm not going to say that. I love new marriage leads. But here's what I realized. That instant motivation was focusing on what I hated, on a feeling that I would get if I had to do something I didn't want to do, which was just the thought of telling my daughter she can go to that school. Maybe some of you had that conversation. I can't do it. So attaching that to what I got to do, man, simple, man, easy peasy. I'll make how many dials I got to make. I mean, you know what I mean? Simple. It became simple. I didn't have to worry about the fear because once I focused on what I hated to do, if that happened, man, that ain't going to happen here. This boy's going to do what he has to do to make sure that never happens, okay? Okay, that's character, so out of character. But you know what? The feelings are real feelings. To motivate you to do anything you want. See, here's the thing, gang. You hold the key to success inside you. You just have to know how to pull it out. You have to use these tools that I talked about to overcome it and pull it out of you because it's inside you. See, here's why. Because God put that inside you. It's something God put in you to desire more for serving other people, right? To do His will, to be the best version of yourself, to be courageous and brave against all odds that come your way. He didn't create you to be a wimp. He created you for a definite purpose to be awesome, right? By relying on Him, knowing that He made you in His image and likeness. You know what I mean? Like, you were born a 10. The world beats you down. You just have to remind yourself you are a 10. You're a child of a king, worthy of the inheritance. Now you got to start acting like it, gang. You got to act courageous and brave, right? So anyway, I hope my little stories and stuff and anecdotes helped you out. Man, this business is awesome if you put in front of you what you desire and you want to put in your rearview mirror it's a thing that you hate. And you'll be on your road, man. I promise you. All right, rock on, everybody. Hope this helped. Take care. God bless. Let's kill it next week.